Then start with Central District. Now the British, when they first came to Hong Kong, settled at Stanley, which was the largest settlement on the island at that time, and they started to build their town at Stanley. But there was very serious problems with malaria, very large numbers of people died, and the government decided almost immediately, within a year, that Stanley was too unhealthy for a city, and they decided to move to an uninhabited area, and they chose the North Shore. This is the North Shore. There's a map here of 1843, of which this is a copy, and you can see here how the British widened the old footpath along the coast. This is the present Queen's Road. They merely widened the footpath. They sold off the land on the seaward side of the new road, and then also on the landward side. The original expectation was that Hong Kong would be a small town. It was not expected to grow into a city. It was expected that trading would continue in Canton as it always had been. It was thought this would merely be a small town where the Europeans could live in safety. It was not expected to grow into a city. And you can see here that there is no infrastructure really of any sort that was provided, merely widening the single road. Along the road were shops and offices for the various companies, and then the rich Europeans built their houses here and there on the slopes above the town. So you can see here a number of houses being built or built without road access. It just had footpaths running down to Queen's Road. Among the many things that were not provided was drinking water. The government decided that for such a small town, these streams here, which ran down through a valley and came out to the sea here, would provide drinking water. And they provided a place where there was a little bridge where Queen's Road crossed these streams, where people could go and dip water out of the streams for drinking water. The only infrastructure that was provided at an early date is the prison and the police station that was built here. Again, without road access, just a footpath up from Queen's Road. And then here was the harbour master to control the traffic in ships. And there was a small office for the very tiny government. There were only 17 people employed in the government by this date. So Central District that was not planned. There were no planners at all. There were no engineers. There were nobody who had any knowledge of how to plan a town. And really the only thing that was done was to widen the footpath into a road and then sell off the land on either side. To the great surprise of the government, however, as soon as the town was established, very large numbers of Chinese people came here looking for the opportunity to do business. It hadn't been expected, and there had been no plans for it. And basically the Chinese, when they arrived in Hong Kong, established two major squatter areas. This one here, you can see this large squatter area here, and this one here along the coast here. And this was called Zhongwan, and this was called Hawan. Some date, Hawan stopped being called Hawan and started to be called Zhongwan. Why, I'm not sure, but originally it was called Hawan, but later it became called Zhongwan, and this was always called Zhongwan. In those days, Wan meant a squatter area. So the name for Central District today, Zhongwan, is taken from that squatter area. So you have the two squatter areas growing very, very fast indeed. By 1843 already the population of the town was more Chinese than European, but there had not been any planning done for it. And the problems that this caused, the fact that the population grew when it wasn't expected to grow, were to cause trouble for Hong Kong for the next 50 years or longer. This is not a very clear map, but this is the original coastline. Here is the footpath, which is today's Queen's Road, and the original waterfront is a little bit seaward of that. Now, if you go to Central Market, which is here, you can see the original seafront very clearly. two roads either side of Central Market, Queen Victoria Street and Jubilee Street, on the northern side are flat. And then halfway along the side of the market, they suddenly change to a slope that goes up. The point where the road changed direction from flat to slope is the original seafront. The sloping part is the old beach. So you can, if you go to Queen's Road, you can see the original water line, the original shoreline, very clearly in this change of slope at that point. You can see here that there was a promontory, a headland here. The Quantino village is here. That's where the ferry pier was, on the tip of the headland, because that was the shortest crossing of the harbour. And this was called West Point. And then there was another promontory here that was called East Point. This is West Point, and it's completely disappeared now under the reclamation. This is where the British landed. They raised the flag here at Possession Point, which was just a little bit up the hill from the site. People have said to me, why did they raise the flag at Possession Point? Well, the answer was, this was the ferry pier, this is where the British would have landed. They would have taken their boats to the pier that existed, and the Possession Point up here was the closest land above the ferry pier that they could get to. So this is where all the British would have landed in the first days of the colony, at the pre-existing ferry pier. It was probably a stone pier. The one on Kowloon side certainly was. The Jimsajo pier, we've got drawings of it. That was made of granite. It was a stone pier, and it's probable that this one was a stone pier as well. So this is where the British have landed at that pier there.